We are live.
We are live. Yay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Excellent. So I'm Amy.
And I am Derrick, and I am having drinks with Amy. How you doing, Amy?
I'm okay.
You're moving, so everything's kind of relative.
I am moving in like 9 days.
Oh God. That's awful.
I'm putting all of my stuff into a moving pod in 8 days.
Fun.
Yes.
Good times.
Fun.
What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking rum and pineapple juice.
Excellent.
Because it's what I had.
Because it's the only thing that you haven't packed.
Because the whiskey's gone.
Oh.
My cat and I finished that off on last week. And
Okay.
so I have a little bit of rum left. And I can get little cans of pineapple juice.
Okay.
So that I don't have to, have a whole bunch of something left next week. So
that makes sense.
How about you?
I am having a cucumber gin and tonic. I have been doing this thing for a couple years where, I think you know that I'm a gardener. I like to garden. And I've been growing cucumbers, and I do this thing where I will buy cheap gin and cheap vodka and muddle up cucumber and infuse cucumber in the gin or in the vodka. And it's actually incredibly refreshing. It's good, summery, light deliciousness.
Sounds good to me.
It's fall. It's starting to feel like fall here, but there is lime. There's a couple limes floating around in there for shits and giggles. So
extra something.
Yeah, because it looks better on camera to have lime in there, right? It's for optics. That's all.
There you go. Speaking of optics, what do you think of the optics of our dear presidential candidate Hillary Clinton? And pneumonia gate.
Pneumonia gate. Are we coining that? Can we make that an official thing?
I don't know what qualifies as a gate.
I really don't feel like it is a gate. I feel like it's being turned into a gate without it having gate worthiness.
Well, that's probably true of most things. Since water.
Yes. So, we want to talk a little bit about self-care, and this was kind of a good jumping off point. I mean, first off, as a news story, I think this is ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
She was overheated. She was dehydrated. Come to find out she has pneumonia, and she deserves to have a sick day. If anyone deserves to have a sick day, it's Hillary Clinton. And, it's the amount of travel that they do to campaign for this job, which I still don't understand why anyone would want the job that they're campaigning for. But the amount of travel that they do, the amount of speaking that they do, the amount of people that they're around. I mean, I can't see how they're not constantly walking around with hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to get sick. Of course your immune system's going to wear down. Of course these things are going to wear on you. And, she was in a bad spot where, it was 9/11 and she basically had to show up at one of those commemoration, she had to. The optics of her not showing up at one of those things would have been awful.
Yep.
At the same time, how great would it have been to have had a statement come out from her campaign saying Mrs. Clinton is ill, and of course she cares about, you know, the tragedy of 9/11 and what it means for our country and blah, blah, blah. But right now she needs to take care of herself. I mean, I can't even imagine a scenario where that happens. And that's kind of upsetting. Yeah. But like, that would have been maybe even worse of a scenario than what we're currently dealing with, is if she would have come out and said, I need to take care of myself for a day or two. And no, just because of the significance of the event that she was going to.
But I also feel like she has a deeper personal connection to 9/11.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Senator for New York at the time. I mean,
right.
That's, if it were me and I were sick and something of that kind of significance were happening in my life, I wouldn't take a sick day. Because it was important to me. But even that brings up the big question of how do we make those judgments of which events are big enough to, power through, which ones are the ones where we have to tough it out so that we can be, how do we make that distinction? Yeah, and the problem with something as extreme as campaigning,
right?
Is that first of all, it's extreme.
Yes.
Absolutely insane.
Not something that you or I will do.
Number two, every single day is important, and every single event is important.
Right.
And whereas I could say, you know what? I have this big event on Sunday, and I'm going to take the 2 days off beforehand.
Yeah.
Someone who's campaigning for the highest office in the country can't do that.
Right.
And the only way that it is acceptable for her to take a sick day is when she actually physically cannot go on.
Right.
And, that's awful.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the larger issue in our culture of overwork and a complete and utter lack of compassion.
Yeah.
From other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So have you had a work situation where you have felt that you had to power through a sickness or power through a really maybe even a rough emotional situation for the sake of professionalism or for the sake of doing your job well or whatever?
I wouldn't necessarily say for the sake of professionalism, but so I actually, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, started acupuncture to treat really horrendous periods.
Mm-hmm.
And so before a year ago, so 2015, for 13 years before that, 15 years before that, every month, I had 3 days where I had to power through because there's no permission for a person with any kind of female problem to take a day off. It's not seen as real sickness. So pretty much every month for the last 15 years, I have had to do that at least one day. And, it's not so much for the sake of professionalism. When I was a waitress and working retail, it was because I couldn't afford to miss an hour
Yeah.
of work because I was being paid hourly. And if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. And I couldn't afford to take 3 days off.
Right.
When I felt terrible. There's also, I mean, another piece of that is my own shame around my own menstruation, around my own period, because I didn't feel like I could talk about it. I actually started telling people that I have migraines because that's a much more socially acceptable illness.
Right.
Than I'm throwing up because my cramps are so terrible. Like, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody cares.
Right.
They're like, oh, yeah, you know, it's like, okay, well, that's what's up. You know, and I have only called in when I absolutely had to. And it's terrible. It's terrible to be at work and be sick.
Absolutely.
There are other jobs I've had where I was the only person on staff who could do the job, who was in the particular job, and I had to show up because there were clients depending upon me or whatever. There was no substitution, and it couldn't wait another day. Yeah. I'm really glad I'm not a doctor or like a surgeon, you know, where someone else's life depends upon me. Yeah. Because that would not.
That'd be bad.
So, you know, since I have often required at least one sick day a month, I don't get to have any other sick days. So if I get a cold or something else, you know, a stomach bug or whatever, it's like it doesn't matter because I'm already, you know, I was already sick once a month for a couple of days. So the permission to take the time off wasn't there. So luckily, after a year and a few months of acupuncture, I am able to function. But I mean, I'm functioning at like 40%. Yeah. Well, I used to be functioning at 10%. So
right. So upgrade.
And it's only like 8 hours that I'm down instead of 3 days. So, you know, it's much, much better. But, you know, there are so many different factors that are sort of operating in tandem to stop you from taking a sick day, to stop me from taking a sick day, like letting people down, losing money, having to make up the work later, retaliation from a supervisor or a boss, you know, all kinds of things. I mean, all kinds of things like that. And it's just, it's just terrible. I mean, I don't feel like we should have a 40-hour work week anyway. I feel like we should have a 30-hour work week. But, you know, there's no sense of preventative care. Yeah. In our culture. Yeah. And self-care falls into that category.
Absolutely.
How about you? When have you had to do that?
So I have, gosh, I remember there was one Sunday when I was pastoring, a solo pastor of a church, and
God,
it was
worship.
Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I woke up with a temperature of 104, and I'm like, and I'm agonizing over the decision to call, you know, one of my session members and tell them that I'm sick because of this huge amount of pressure I'm feeling of what are they going to do this morning if I'm not there, you know? Some of this is like our own sense of self-importance and our own sense of like being needed and whatnot. So there was that situation. But in 2014, when I was working retail, I got strep throat, and again, running a high fever. And I just remember like the agonizing phone call that I made to my supervisor, and just like the shaming that was going on. Well, you need to call someone else to have them come in and take your shift. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I work at Barnes and Noble. The fact that I don't show up, like, is not life or death. This is not surgery.
Yep.
But it was such a shaming thing. It was almost like there's a little bit of, are you really sick, or are you just trying to get out of work? Are you really sick, and is this going to be a pattern with you? It's like, well, I hope strep throat's not going to be a pattern with me. But it was so shaming to call in, and there was no compassion on the other side of like, oh, we hope you feel better. It was just kind of like, well, yeah, I think I did, actually.
Seriously,
I think I did.
With a lot of like big corporate retail jobs, if you miss 2 days, you have to
come with a doctor's note.
You have to get a doctor's note, or it's considered unexcused, and they write you up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I have had those situations where, yeah, that like bring a doctor's note to your employer like that. I mean, that feels invasive. I mean, first and foremost, but
like, we don't believe you.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to drag sick ass to the doctor and have them write a note. Like,
yeah.
What?
I mean, and the other thing is, so I have kind of chronic respiratory stuff. Like I get bronchitis anytime I get anything. So like I work really hard to not get colds. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of times when I do get sick, what I get sick with is this very dry, hacking, pretty obnoxious cough. And there have been times when I have showed up for work, like, and basically like hacked up a lung near my supervisor for the fact of like, do you see that I'm not faking? Like, this is me. I'm really sick, you know? And it's like, you know, you shouldn't have to go to those lengths to prove that you're not feeling well. But it's such a part of the business culture, which has, you know, filtered down very heavily into the nonprofit world, that you know, time is money, and then if you're not there, then you are costing the company, and there's not a lot of compassion. There's not a lot of grace. There's not a lot of humanity in it at all.
No.
And that's really, you know, I think that's really the hard part about self-care, is that so often it feels like you're swimming upstream. It definitely feels like you're going against the flow of culture. Because culture says to sacrifice yourself for the sake of your job.
Yeah.
Sacrifice yourself for the sake of making money. Sacrifice yourself for maintaining a position.
And that cultural understanding starts in the economy.
Yeah.
Because we have a squarely capitalist economy where time is money. Mm-hmm. Therefore, humans are commodities. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are commodified, and you cannot get sick.
Yeah.
Because that you know, time and money are lost.
Right.
If you get sick.
Yeah. And here's the dirty secret, though. In most big companies' business models, they actually factor in that there will be lost hours from sick days. Mm-hmm. So they actually know that you're going to get sick. And they actually have done a little bit of accounting for it. So don't tell anyone.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, but you know, that kind of pressure to produce, right? So since we live in a capitalist society, Our value in society is determined by how much money we circulate through that system.
Yeah.
Right? And then at the same time, it means that the more stressed and exhausted and busier you are, the greater your status.
Right.
So our value in society becomes dependent upon how exhausted we are.
Yeah. And you hear things like, I mean, I think so often you hear people saying how busy they are as a badge of honor.
Yes.
I am so busy today, and I've got all these things going on, and being busy. Yeah, I have no desire to be busy. I have little to no desire to be busy at all, and but I think there is. It is part of the capitalist paradigm that we're swimming in.
Right.
But there also is the ego side.
Yep.
You know, there is the self-importance. There is this thing falls apart if I'm not here, and people are going to be lost without me, or people are going to be disappointed in me. Mm-hmm. People are going to be upset with me. People are going to be let down by me.
Which is the internalization of the larger society.
Exactly.
Because then you don't need someone to tell you those things. You already hear those voices.
Exactly. It's already in your head.
And it's already influencing your choices before you've even given it a second thought. Like, before you even know what you're doing, before you even know what's happening, you're dressed and walking out the door to go to work, even though you're sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like there's
staying
home isn't an option. It's not even even a thought that crosses your mind.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the signals your body is sending you that say, I'm sick, I'm getting sick, slow down, take it easy, take a nap, we aren't even registering consciously.
Yeah.
Because the degree of the self-denial and the ignorance of the body is so deep.
So what are the signals that your body gives you that, even if whether it's sickness or not, what are the signals that your body gives you that you haven't been taking care of yourself?
Feeling lethargic. So not just tired, like I overdid it today, but like lethargic in the sense that my tank is empty. There's no gas in the tank. Like tension, aches and pains. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's in my shoulders, in my lower back. I get tension headaches. You know, and usually the first sign that I'm getting a cold or something like that is a certain feeling in my throat, like a little bit of a sore throat, kind of a post-nasal drip kind of irritation. Yeah, those are kind of the red flags. And so, you know, honestly, I get sick once every 5 times that my spouse gets sick.
Okay.
And that's often because I notice the signals sooner. And I take myself out of commission at the first sign of illness. And I also take a lot of preventative measures too. I make sure to get enough sleep. That, to me, sleep is our number one self-care practice. It's the foundation. If you don't sleep well enough, if you don't get enough sleep, there's nothing that can make up for it. It doesn't matter how many vegetables you eat or what your workout is or how many cups of coffee you drink. Nothing can replace sleep. Mm-hmm. Nothing can make up for that.
And ironically, for me, one of the first signs that I'm getting sick is disruption of my sleep. Like I will like yeah, like oftentimes like before I get a cold or something like that, like I won't sleep and just kind of like wake up and just kind of feel drained and like ugh, just kind of blah.
That's actually a PMS thing for me. Insomnia. It's often like the night before I start my period. I'm like this, lying in bed and I'm like, why am I still awake? Because normally I lay down and I'm out. But also for me, I have to be very careful about stress. And food. So noticing the correlation between what I've eaten during the day and how my sleep is, how my digestion is, how my body feels in general, and really doing experiments on that level, because food is our first medicine. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that. And I'm freaked out that our country's biggest pharmaceutical company just bought our country's biggest farming company.
I saw that this morning and I posted it several times on my social media, and I have very strong feelings about that.
Even when we want to eat well, like even when we want to eat healthy food, the food that comes out of the ground is safe to eat. Like,
I mean, and I mean, to digress a little bit, I mean, we have to understand that like Monsanto controls like 30% of the seeds that are produced in this country. So that means that even for people like me who do like to garden and grow my own food, like I now have to do the due diligence of finding out where those seeds came from. Or harvesting my own and making sure that, you know, I'm being consistent year after year. But it's terrifying. I mean, because now the people who are in control of your food or that is making you sick are also in control of the drugs that are supposed to make you not sick. And
it's not just control. It's benefit. So this pharmaceutical company benefits from people being sick. So it has no vested interest in preventing illness, which is what good food does.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge part of self-care. And I think one of the things that we're beginning to look at more and more is, why is it that going to McDonald's is so much cheaper than being able to go out and get good produce? You know, why is it so much cheaper to go to McDonald's than to go down to your local farmer's market? And the fact that, you know, there's kind of a disproportionate burden on the poor, on communities of color to not have access to the kind of food that is going to keep them from being sick long term and short term. So all of that is incredibly frustrating for me. Incredibly frustrating.
It is. It absolutely is. And
I mean,
again, we're, you know, access to self-care is increasingly difficult. Period. Even when you want to take care of yourself, having the self-awareness to notice what it even is. Like, even being able to just take a minute, check in with your body, take a deep breath, and ask your body what it wants. Ask your body what it needs. Even the quick little check-in like that is challenging to fit into the day. And what
Absolutely.
really gets me about a lot of like self-help, personal spiritual growth stuff, is that it's like another thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually what we need is less stuff to do.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Like most of the time, we're all already at capacity.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's actually one of my goals with my spiritual direction clients is it's like, I'm not trying to add another thing for you to do.
Mm.
It's my goal for you to be intentional about the things that you are doing so that it's clear why that thing is part of your life.
Yeah. That's a very important and I think difficult distinction for a lot of people to make. That there is, if what you're doing has intention behind it, it won't feel quite as draining. It won't feel quite as burdensome as when you're kind of mechanically going through the motions of your day. I think that's so much of, I think part of self-care is being able to look at your day-to-day activities, and really just kind of taking inventory of what are the things in your life that you absolutely have to do. What are the things in your life that you do that give you energy? What are the things that you do in your life that drain you? And how do you, I think time management is a huge part of self-care that we hardly ever really talk about, how we do good time management and do that as a way of protecting one of our most valuable resources, which is our time.
Yeah. Which actually kind of brings me to one of the things, kind of one of the aspects of life and one of those sort of mentalities that I see getting in the way of self-care over and over and over again. And that is a mentality of scarcity.
Mm.
This underlying fear that, if I don't get this thing done today, there will be catastrophic consequences tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or the understanding that there's not enough time and there's not enough energy to do, for life to look the way we actually need for it to look to be sustainable.
Right.
And that's a very challenging mindset to get through, to get beyond. This mindset that I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough energy. And even if I did, I wouldn't know what to do besides eat a donut or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think we, that fear of enough, that fear of not having enough, really gets to so many of the sort of self-inflicted wounds that we have in our lives. And I wonder if we were able, I feel this in so many parts of my life and just kind of life in general, that if we were able to shift our focus to focusing on the abundance that we actually do have, how much healthier not only would we be, in our bodies, but in our minds and our spirits. We'd be able to focus on the fact that life's not as limited as we often make it out to be.
Yes. And self-care starts with the unconditional love and acceptance of self.
Mm.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
I mean, at some point, you have to decide that you are worth caring for.
Yeah, and you have to believe what you notice.
Yeah.
You know, if I have a stuffy nose and a sore throat and I'm exhausted, I can ignore all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I can go, oh yeah, my head hurts and my throat hurts and I'm stuffy and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Or I can say, you know what? My throat hurts, my head hurts, my nose is stuffy, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
But the decision to go to bed is dependent upon me acknowledging how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's missing for most people most of the time. Is there may be this thought that kind of floats across their mind of like, oh, my head hurts, or oh, I'm a little achy, or ooh. But it doesn't mean anything. And it's not a signal of anything. It's just a thing. So the alternative is to go, oh, my back hurts. What did I do that would cause my back to hurt? Oh, you know what? My back hurts every single time I sit at a desk for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something about my chair that needs to change in order for me to not be in pain. You know, it's a very simple sort of thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tops after you.
it's a very simple thought process, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to take a second and go, oh, my back hurts. Oh, my back hurts every time I've sat in that chair. Maybe I need a pillow, or, you know, maybe it needs to be higher or lower or whatever. And then you sit in the chair and you adjust the chair until it feels better. And you try that for a little while. You know, it's like there's this, I feel like perfectionism also completely undermines self-care.
Oh God, yeah.
Because what's perfect is very rarely the most caring option, the most loving option.
Yeah.
And, you know, on the subject of self-love and unconditional love of self and acceptance, you know, so many of our resources are finite. There's only so much money. There's only so much time. We only have so much energy. Love is infinite. And it doesn't operate under the same restrictions that most other things in our lives do.
That's very true.
So for me, it doesn't cost me anything to love myself and to clear out any of the thoughts or feelings or behaviors that separate me from love, that stop me from extending that love to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we haven't experienced that, it's difficult to choose it.
Yeah.
If we haven't experienced abundance in any form, it's difficult to choose it because it's theoretical. It's an idea. And we have to go through the process of trying it and proving to ourselves that it can be done, that it can be practiced. Because your whole life is a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
You know, people like to put spiritual practices in little boxes of like, okay, this is my Lectio Divina, and this is my Bible study, and this is my nightly prayer, and this is my morning meditation. It's like your whole life is spiritual practice.
Yeah.
And to change your life, you have to change your practice.
Mm-hmm.
It is not enough to have an intention of something and never do it. Self-care is something that you do.
Yeah.
It's not another thing to do. And you will never have it if you never do it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way, and this is kind of a tangent, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm actually interested in your perspective on this, because I feel like sometimes in this sort of fast food culture that we live in, salvation is a thing that gets wrapped up in that sort of instant gratification realm.
Yeah.
And it becomes, how do I explain this? Like, it's like, because I am saved, I made that choice. I chose Jesus. I invited Jesus into my heart, and I am saved. And now I'm some enlightened person that can just walk through the world.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a magical pill that I can take to make everything better.
Right.
Embodying the unconditional love of God in the world is a choice that I have to make every moment of every day.
Right.
It's not a choice that I made when I was baptized at 9 years old.
Right.
It is something that I have to choose in every moment and embody in every moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough just to intend to love people. When Carly and I first started dating, I would ask her, a favor or whatever, and she'd say, I can't say I'll try, but I'll try to try.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are a society and a culture of people who are trying to try.
Yeah.
And not getting very far.
Yeah.
In a lot of different areas. And self-care is one of them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know it's important, and I know I need to do it. It's like, well, you clearly don't know from your own experience. Like, if you knew from your own experience how important self-care was, you'd do it. You would do it.
Yeah.
So clearly someone has told you that it's important, and you're trusting their opinion.
Yeah.
But not trusting their opinion enough to find out for yourself if it's important.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think that I think that so many things can stop you from doing those things that are good for you, that are self-caring, self-loving things to do. And so often, that can be the expectations of someone else in your life. That can be,
yep.
Yes, we've already talked about time and things like that, but I think the expectations that others put on us so often will keep us from taking care of ourselves. That gets complicated by partners, that gets complicated by kids, that gets complicated by other social obligations that we might have. And again, we end up in all these places where we don't want to let people down. One of the things, I have gotten this way with my meditation practice. So I do mindfulness meditation in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I have just gotten to the place now where I have to say that no, go for it. But by all means, I'm actually, wishing that I had something closer by. Anyway, because mine's empty. But I'll live.
I can do a tap dance. We can have an intermission.
That's okay. I'll be good.
Sorry, finish your sentence.
But it's the thing of I know that I am a better version of me on those mornings when I take the 20 minutes to settle my mind down, sit, and just do my meditation. I know that.
So what stops you doing it?
And sometimes it's the discipline of giving myself that 20-minute cushion before the day gets rolling. Sometimes it's sometimes it is, particularly if I don't like do it before the house is kind of buzzing. I might get into a routine. I might get into a place where, okay, I'm already doing X, Y, and Z, so I'll just keep rolling on with the activities of the day, and I won't stop. And then I'll get to about noon and wonder why I'm cranky as hell. Or why I'm scattered as hell. And it really has taken me really taking a very disciplined stance that like this has to come before other things that I'm doing. This has to come before everything else that is part of my morning routine, because my day and my interactions with people are way better when I do this. And I have both my experiential evidence for that. I have the experiences of people who interact with me who will tell me that I am just a better person to be around when I am doing these things. And now enough people who know that I'm doing this and can tell the difference. And can say, okay, look, it's cool, you're scattered, or you're withdrawn, and have you been meditating in the morning? And it's like, oh, okay, busted. But I think it really is about I come back to, for myself, do I love myself enough to do that for me? I think that's really always kind of the hurdle that I have to get over, is like, do I love myself enough to do this in the morning?
And if you're not doing it, the answer is no.
Exactly. And sometimes I have to be honest about that too. And say, and ask myself some hard, uncomfortable questions. And that kind of goes back to the therapy episode a couple weeks ago. But but I do think that's one of those things that I think for a lot of us, we will say, I'm not worthy of a vacation. I'm not worthy of time off. I haven't earned, I think that's a big one. I haven't earned the right to, so another example for me is that one of the things that I found with stress for me is that it ends up in my back. And so, getting a massage is great for that. And sometimes I will just, I don't have the money for it. I don't have the time for it, blah, blah, blah. And it's really, all of those things are like coded ways of saying, I don't think I deserve it. And, or an even worse thing is like, I do deserve the pain in my back. And I think we say all of these really negative messages to ourselves. Instead of saying, being able, I think part of doing self-care is being able to look in the mirror and saying, the person that I'm looking at is worthy of being taken care of. The way that I look at my children and say, there's no part of me that questions whether or not they are worth taking care of. I don't stop for a second to think about the answer to that question. And we have to get to that same place with ourselves.
Yes. If I can, waking up with the assumption that I am loved and lovable means, it's like, if that's the assumption, logic would dictate that it's valuable for me to take care of myself. It's important for me to do that. And actually, if I'm starting from that assumption that I am loved and lovable, then how I take care of myself comes from an observational, neutral place. It comes from the place of information. And I can be in acceptance of my own information. I can believe what that information tells me. I can notice that information over time, the patterns in that information over time. And then I can make choices rooted in those patterns.
Right.
So, for instance, you know the effect that 20 minutes of meditation has on your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know that very clearly. You just told me.
Yes.
Right? So,
fact.
It is a fact. So, from that perspective, from the perspective of wisdom, you meditated. And then you meditated many times. And you noticed a positive change. You noticed a positive difference. So logic would dictate that you should keep doing it.
Exactly.
Wisdom says, yes, I must meditate for 20 minutes every morning.
Yeah.
Therefore, my alarm clock has to go off at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have to go. I also know that I need 8 hours of sleep. Therefore, I must be in bed by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and it's all of these things are connected, and it totally affects the entire flow of your day.
And
if you're willing to build that into your day.
Right now, you have there is something psychologically, emotionally, energetically, spiritually that is blocking you from your truth.
Right.
The truth that you just spoke to me and to everyone else, that you are better. Your day is better, you feel better after you meditate. And, you can find every excuse in the book that you want to not do that. And ultimately, if you believe what you notice about it, and couple that belief, that truth, with an acceptance and an acknowledgement of that truth, and really take it in on the deepest levels of your being, then there is no other option.
Exactly.
And not doing it is the thing that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So to me, that's what's so amazing about our bodies and about the ways that our mind can come in and support our bodies. Because, for a lot of us, the sort of focus of our mental focus is misdirected. And so our mental focus goes to the place of judgment and critique and scarcity and no. I have a feeling, my mind says no. You don't get to feel that. When in actuality, the best sort of purpose or use of our mental capacity is to support the information, the feelings, the truths, right? And to acknowledge them and then go, okay, 20 minutes a day. When can I do that? How can I do that? And to sort of solve that puzzle of making it happen, to answer the question of how, right? Again, the misdirection of our mind goes to, I don't need that. I don't deserve that. That's silly. That's frivolous. That's stupid. When the best use of our mental capacity is actually to say yes and.
Yeah.
So, okay, yes, my back hurts. And my back hurts, I know from my experience over time that my back hurts from stress and that I really need a massage once a week. So and the thing that stops me from getting a massage is money. How can I make more money? Or even more basic, what massage therapist can I find who will trade massage for spiritual direction?
Yeah.
or who will trade massage for vegetables, or,
Yeah.
these are the things that I have to offer. Who can
Yeah.
who can I find to share their gifts in exchange for my gifts?
Yeah.
It's like, that's where the problem-solving mind needs to go to the problem of not getting the self-care.
Yeah.
For most of us, our problem-solving mind goes to solving the problem that is the feeling. The feeling, the information, is not the problem that needs to be solved. The information deserves to be noticed, and noticed over time, and acknowledged and accepted. And then the problem solving happens of, okay, I need this thing.
Yeah.
How do I get it?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense.
It's not a problem that you need a massage. It's not a problem that you're backward. And that, it's like, okay, you're stressed. The feeling of stress is not actually the problem. The problem is that you're not getting enough massages.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, and it's so. I think what you've said is really, really important. It's how are we, in some ways, using our mental energy? Are we using our mental energy in a way that really, truly values the place that self-care has in our life? Or so often what we do, I don't feel like I'm exceptional in this place. I feel like so often what I do is talk myself out of the things that I know would actually be really good for me.
Yes.
Really healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just kind of relieving for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, what you're highlighting is our mental energy can be used to actually bolster our understanding of, and to be able to look at ourselves objectively and say, if this were someone else, you would do this for someone else that you loved. And if you are someone that you love, then it makes sense that you would do this for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for us to claim to be people of faith means that we are loving of God and loved by God.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it is my responsibility to accept that love on a body level. And to be an open channel for it in the world.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, that allows me to be in a self-care mode, because again, earlier when I mentioned waking up with the assumption that you are loved and lovable is what faith means.
Yeah.
That's what God tells us over and over and over in the Bible. It's what my experience of God says, is that we are loved, we are lovable, and our ability to embody that love towards ourselves and others is our highest responsibility. Is to expand that ability as much as possible.
Yeah.
The greater our capacity for love, without self-sacrifice, the more we are fulfilling our purpose.
Yeah.
From my perspective. But that's just my theology.
I like it. I do. I think that's, and again, we're getting close to time, but I do feel like that's one of the places where I feel like a lot of interpretations of the Bible are actually the thing that flies in the face of us doing good self-care.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of interpretations of the Bible that we feel like we have to, and again, I'm a person who believes deeply in service to others.
Yes.
But I often believe that we kind of martyr ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we think that we think of it as virtuous.
Well, that's what Christ
we think of, right, exactly, and so therefore that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's exactly a good understanding of what Christ did either.
It's not Christ's sacrifice that is the thing we are supposed to be embodying.
Right.
We are meant to embody the unconditional love.
Yes. Yes.
That was embodied by Christ.
Jesus loved himself enough to get up early in the morning and go spend time away from people.
Yeah.
Because he needed that for himself.
I mean, let's get real, right? Christ's ministry, what? He was 30 when he started?
Yeah.
He did it for 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
our model
kind of burned out.
Like, come on. Our model for lifelong ministry is a 3-year ministry.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What?
It was pretty intense. It was a pretty fast, intense kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not really a model for longevity
or sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's a fine line between service and servitude.
Yeah.
And only I know what that line is for me. And only I know when I am sacrificing myself.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is up to me to acknowledge when that's happening.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, the way that sort of the Christian theological history or the history of Christian theology undermines self-care is its own hour-long conversation.
Yeah.
But there's a really good book. It's really long and kind of expensive. But,
not selling it well.
Sorry. It's I'm trying to I just blanked on the title of it. It's by Rita Nakashima Brock and Rebecca Parker. And it's called Saving Paradise.
Okay.
That's the full title. That's the title. The subtitle is How Christianity Traded Love of This World for Crucifixion and Empire.
Mm.
Like I said, it's a pretty long book, but it's sort of an art history of paradise images and in early Christianity, and how the value of creating paradise on earth was replaced by empire. Mm. And that, you know, once Christianity became a tool for empire, you know, you had Celtic people who were forced to convert, and who were then told that Christ's death was their fault. And, you know, you get a Christianity that was used to oppress and abuse other people. Mm-hmm. And it is that theology that is alive and well today. Yeah. It is a theology that is used to keep abused people abused. It is used to, I mean, it was used to keep slaves subject to their masters. It was used in feudal Europe to keep subjects, you know, inferior to the landowners. I mean, it's all over Western culture and history. Yeah. And the way that it is embodied today is in the self-sacrifice that each and every one of us practices on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And the opposite of self-sacrifice is self-care. Yeah.
And in some ways, I think one of the last battlegrounds in the fight for empire and the fight against empire is the effect that empire has on the fact that empire makes us do self-abuse.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue.
Yep. A friend of mine on Facebook today posted about oppression. And I'll just read what he wrote because it was very powerful to me in the context of self-care. He says, it's called oppression sickness. Those on the top of privilege can oppress everyone else. Then those who have been oppressed in their insecurity use whatever privilege they have to oppress others. White women can oppress people of color. Straight people of color can oppress LGBT folks. White LGBT folks can oppress LGBT folks of color. Gay and lesbian people can oppress transgender people. Rich trans people can oppress low-income trans people. The cycle never seems to end. Jesus said that the last will be first and the first will be last. God has a presence for the most marginalized because their egos don't get in the way as much. All we can do is see the best in everyone and focus on that. Hurting people hurt people. Our work is out of compassion toward everyone who suffers.
That's phenomenal. That's
like,
really good.
Oppression trickles down. Money does.
Yeah. So very true.
Like the new trickle down theory.
Yeah, no, and one that actually unfortunately seems to work.
Yes, we have every reason not to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we have every reason to take care of ourselves. And to make that shift towards self-care.
Because in our making that shift, we actually contribute to breaking those cycles of oppression.
And embodying the love of God. Embodying the love of God, which is our highest responsibility as people of faith, period.
Amen. That's a good place to stop. So,
yes.
While you are in the middle of your move, are you taking on new clients?
I will start taking on new clients the middle of October.
Okay.
So I have like a 3-week sort of hiatus. But I'm happy to schedule consultations now. I am happy to put consultations on the calendar for October.
For once you are settled in October.
I'm happy for those to get onto the calendar now. Yeah, I mean, the good news is that pretty much all of my spiritual direction clients will be working with me over the phone.
Awesome.
So that's great.
Very cool.
I'm very excited about that. And Jeff and I have figured out what the future of Sanctuary for the Arts looks like and how I'm going to be involved in that. And so my role in that will become virtual, which is very exciting. And, we'll keep doing Drinks with Amy. And we're on a 2-week cycle. And in 2 weeks, I will actually be in Phoenix.
Oh.
So I am... Is that true?
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So a week from today is my 3-year wedding anniversary.
Woohoo! Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's actually also means that Carly and I have been together for 6.5 years.
Wow. All right.
Coincidentally, our wedding anniversary and our anniversary of when we started dating are 6 months apart to the day.
That's convenient.
Didn't plan that. Really. So yes, on the 28th, we will be in in Phoenix, and on the 5th we will be in Denver. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's what's up with me. What's up with you?
So I am going to be at the Just Food Conference at Princeton Theological Seminary as part of their Farminary program.
Fancy.
Princeton discovered at some point a few years ago that they had 22 acres of land. And then they decided to start this program through the effort of my friend Nathan Stuckey to have a farm and use the farm to integrate theological education and earth care and agrarian
The
lifestyle.
seminary has a farm?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. So I'm going to be doing a workshop on that weekend. It's next weekend, the 22nd through the 24th. So I'm really excited about that. So my topic is about basically it's going to be kind of casting a vision for churches to reimagine themselves as, as growing places. We often talk about church growth, but I think we have a lot of models. There's a garden church out in LA, and there's a farm church now down in North Carolina. And there's lots of churches who are addressing the issues of food deserts in their communities by growing on their land or by having their worship incorporated in growing spaces. So really just kind of casting a vision that I think that a lot of churches that are struggling could really maybe find new life by seeing themselves as places where food is grown and where community is built in that way. Yeah. So there's that, and then I forgot to put the link to Patreon on the Drinks with Amy page, but I will do that.
Do it now.
I will.
Do it now.
All right, I'll do it.
Take care of yourself.
Okay, I will. I know I'm worth it. So
I'm smart enough. What is it? I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people
like me.
Something like that. That's at least.
So that works.
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's going on with me, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. You'll be on the road somewhere, but we'll find you. We'll track you down.
I'm like so excited.
I'm excited for you. I think I'm really excited to see all the adventures that you have on the road. I'm sure that's going to be fun.
Yeah, LA to Phoenix, Sedona to Durango to Denver to Kansas City.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're staying at least 2 nights in every place.
Nice. That's good. You've paced that out well.
Yeah,
and that could have been way worse.
Yeah, and we're staying with friends everywhere except Durango.
You don't know anyone in Durango?
I don't know. Do I know anyone in Durango?
I don't know. I don't know anyone in Durango.
We're not driving more than like 6 hours a day.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a very reasonable pace.
Yeah. I was trying to fit it all into 10 days. And then it just didn't work. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. That'll be exciting.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So my intention is for us to be back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Depending upon what happens with the move and the road trip and all that stuff, it may be the following week. I don't know. But
we'll be flexible.
Yeah, everybody keep an eye on Facebook for information.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
All right.
Everybody, take good care.
Yeah, seriously, take care of yourselves.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks.
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye.